Si, welcome to Castle Malwood, obviously Si West of Fire Door Experts. It's great to have a perspective of the construction market. We've had a number of people on the Vissensa Talks series so far, so it's great to get you here to Castle Malwood and talk about the sort of stuff that you're seeing in the marketplace at this point in time.
Steve, thank you for having me here. My name's Si West. I run I've got two companies. One's called BWC and the other one's called Fire Door Experts. So BWC, we're specialise in interior fit outs in the commercial sector. And then Fire Door Experts is a sister company of BWC, and that's where we're a third-party accredited fire door installer, so we can survey fire doors, maintain existing fire doors and supply and install new fire doors. So we work predominantly in the commercial sector. Our clients include NHS trusts. We're preferred subcontractors for a lot of the main contractors out there. Care homes, managing agents, property agents. So quite a broad range of clients that we work for.
Yeah, and when we talked off camera, the fire door side of your business has massively taken off. And presumably the tragedy of Grenfell really started to change the perspective
It changed the landscape completely, and it still does to this day. I mean, every day, collectively in my business, we've probably got over 100 years of experience in fire door installations and maintenance, and yet every day we're learning new regulations, new techniques, and that's part of my business, is to make sure we're ahead of that curve. So Fire Door Experts, I launched that. I actually delayed it a little bit because of Grenfell.
Right.
And I didn't want to, we were about to launch it in Grenfell, the tragedy of Grenfell happened, so I postponed it. Then about September that year we launched it, and nothing really happened in terms of the business. We were still getting a few inquiries in for the BWC side, which is the interior fit out, but the Fire Door Experts part didn't really change much. But we invested in SEO. We got a really good guy that does all our search engine optimization, and within about 6 months we're on page 1 of Google, which was fantastic.
Yeah, swear to be.
And in the same sort of time, people's perspective of fire doors changed completely, because what had happened is they had taken time to digest what happened at Grenfell. And people, for example, we've got a property management client who owns a massive portfolio of properties around London, and prior to Grenfell, we were working for them, maintaining their buildings on the BWC side of the business, and it was a case of, can we go and redecorate the foyer, can we change the carpet, whatever we were doing. Yeah. And the fire doors or the alarms was a bit like, no, we're not going to do anything about that. And then after Grenfell, when people realised, these are essential life-saving devices here, the perspective changed, and they were almost forced to say, right, don't worry about the painting of the foyer, it doesn't matter. Let's concentrate on perhaps the fire doors, which are a little bit more serious, and we need to do something about them. Yeah. So the business really started to take off, and we're into year 3 now, and we're growing really, really rapidly. We're accredited to a third-party accreditation called BM Charter's Q-Mark Fire Door Scheme. So right. It's what we consider the preeminent sort of fire door accreditation out there. It's a tough course to pass. We get audited in the office on site twice a year. All our technicians are trained, and they're constantly audited. We have a very good process of how we capture the work we do, in terms of everything's photographed. This is before, this is after. We have Dropbox links that the clients can see. It's all live, so they can see. I've got my desk in office and my computer, and I can see all the photos being dropped into my Dropbox constantly, where the site team on various projects are
wow, that's fantastic.
Out. Yeah, and we find that's really worked really well with clients, because it's complete accountability for what we do.
Yeah, a lot of transparency in there, and I suppose that really helps.
Transparency. One of the things that Dame Judith Hackett commented on in her report for Grenfell is the fact that no one's accountable, what appears to be accountable, for these fire safety devices, whether it's cladding or fire doors, whereas now we're taking part of that responsibility. We don't design or manufacture doors. No. We have manufacturers to do that for us, but we need to make sure that we install them correctly as per the manufacturer's test evidence. You can't just install a fire door. There's very strict margins you've got to apply to. And part of that process, as the Hackett report said, is accountability in terms of A, we're doing it correctly, here's proof that we're doing it correctly, and B, how we pass the information on to the owners of the buildings, the responsible people, the managers, or whoever's responsible for that building. It's about passing that information on, and we do it all electronically. So there's not paperwork that's lost anywhere.
Yeah, do you know what? That's fantastic to hear. I mean, absolutely fantastic to hear local business thriving. That's brilliant in these times. But also, it feels like, you know, what you've done there is you've really grasped the digital age and digital transformation. And because it's so easy to store and collect and manage that, then actually you're using all of those digital services to the best of the advantage, not only for your business, but actually also for the customers, and again, the transparency of what you're doing and things like that.
Absolutely. I mean, it's, you know, this is the electronic age we live in. You know, the paperwork side of it, it's all electronic paperwork, you know, and it's even, you know, like the Zoom meetings we have now, it's all electronically done. So we find it's just so much, even so that over the sort of the period where we had a bit of downtime, we invested in a fire door survey tablet, so that it's in a beta stage at the moment. We're still testing it, but the lads on site will be able to survey doors on a tablet, and they can take photos of what they're doing. They can upload it to the office, and the office can create invoices, we can create applications for payment, you know, and it's all this digital technology on tablets that the guys have got on site, and it starts on site.
Fabulous. Yeah. Do you think that pressure, I mean, you talk about Dame Judith Hackett and the report, definitely there was lots of alarm bells in what she said in terms of the way that people are approaching that. Do you think that that consumer pressure on the authorities has turned that tide, that authorities take a more proactive approach to that as well, Si?
Absolutely. We're still finding that people don't want to take responsibility because they're afraid to. You know, but at some point, designers, architects, installers, we have to have some kind of accountability. You know, like I say, we don't design or manufacture doors, however we install them, so we take accountability for installing them correctly. Yeah. But we still find that people are very, they're a bit sort of, oh, I don't want to take responsibility, that's not my problem. But at some point down that chain, whether you're manufacturing, installing or designing, you have to take that responsibility. Do
you think that will come? I mean, it feels like, you know, again, if you look at the cladding, you know, and I don't want to get into the controversy of cladding, but clearly the story that's coming out about the people that created the cladding and the people that installed it and maintained it and designed it, they are all sort of going, well, it was recommended, they were all doing that, and that has to change, doesn't it?
Even, I mean, there's so much pressure in construction, much like your industry. We talked earlier off camera about nothing happens for 6 months when you send a quote in, and suddenly it's like, can you do it? I want it done by last week. It was like, well, hang on, you've had it on your desk for 6 months, why suddenly the rush? There was something that came out in the news yesterday about someone who read a report and they replied back in half an hour or something, and the courts are saying, well, that's not long enough to digest all the information in that report, but they were probably under pressure to get the report read and signed and sent back, and there's all this pressure, time, but everyone just needs to slow down a little bit, you know, and sort of take a step back. And
I mean, in our industry, we've found, I know that, and I've certainly talked about it on a number of the other Vissensa talks, is that we've, you know, you've got people that have planned to be, you know, in the digital world. There are people that were in the middle of getting to a completely digitized environment, and there were people that hadn't done it at all. And those people that, particularly those people that hadn't done it at all, obviously they did bring people up and say, could I have it tomorrow? Because actually they needed that to get their business going. And one of the things that in a lot of cases negates is a plan. And as you say, is that whatever you're doing, if you were planning it 6 months ago, then you shouldn't throw that plan away. There still needs to be, you know, a logical steps to get to the end goal of the project. So it's interesting that you're seeing that. You know,
one of the other things we're seeing as well, which is much needed, is architects and specifiers and contract administrators and all those people that are involved in the procurement stage of I'm talking about now about fire doors,
Yeah.
is they're writing in the specifications they need to be installed by third-party accredited contractors.
Yeah.
Before, they never did that. So
Okay.
you could get a random carpentry firm or a joiner just installing doors, whereas fire doors, we have really, really exacting margins we have to install to. There's very specific rules we have to install to, particularly for what's hidden behind the architraves, the fire stopping between the back of the frame and the wall. A lot of that gets missed. You'll be amazed. You know,
Sure.
even projects we're going to now where the client hasn't had it in fire doors installed by an accredited contractor, and they don't have a certificate to sign it off. They say, can we come and have a look at it? So, well, we can't certificate someone else's work. We can come in and have a look, and we can make an assessment based on how we think they've been installed.
Yeah.
We take architraves off, there's massive gaps, there's newspaper shoved in behind the door. It's like a fire door it will only last for its required design time, 30 minutes or 60 minutes or whatever it is, if it's been installed correctly, and part of that is fire stopping behind the frame, behind the architraves.
I mean, I suppose it's exactly the same as, for example, and that's just sort of coming into a line with the sort of stuff that you get from an electrical perspective with like a Part P.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you wouldn't expect another electrical contractor to come in and
sign
it off without actually having to go right through the whole thing and give the advice and guidance, and some of that might be wrong and there might be some remedial work that needs to be done. So there's nothing different there really, is there?
No, not at all, no. So it's a much needed emphasis now on accountability, record keeping, and pushing that information once you've finished that project, taking that information and passing it on to the end user. Because at the end of the day, you know, if you don't pass the information on, whoever's responsible for that building, they need to know that the doors are compliant, they've been maintained correctly, they've been
There's a liability there, isn't there?
There's a liability there, but that's, for us, that's part of our electronic age we live in. That should be something that's just passed on electronically. That shouldn't be something that's paperwork that's lost. That's down to the people that we pass the information on. They have responsibility to make sure that information is given to the building owners and managers.
Look, that's really useful. That's been a really interesting segment. We're at the end of this piece of the Vissensa talks, but great insight, Si, and thanks for that. Thanks for providing that.
You're welcome.